Welcome to the IWGB Second English Radio Podcast. I'm Anne Onmasiri and I'm a volunteer press officer. In this show, we will be talking about the negotiations with E-Courier, the IWGB Charity and the Courier Tribunal case, as well as other news from the union. The biggest news of the month is that the IWGB has had a major victory with E-Courier. The couriers and logistics branch of the IWGB have successfully won better paying conditions for their couriers. I spoke to John Katona, who is part of the couriers and logistics branch, about how this will impact E-Courier's workers. What were the initial main aims for the negotiations with E-Courier?
We initially wrote a letter to E-Courier demanding that they redress their pay structure. This came on the tail end of another campaign, which was focused on City Sprint. Both the campaigns had the same aim, which was to get the living wage plus costs for couriers working at the company. We publicized our actions that we had contacted the company and put it on social media and on Facebook, where loads of our members keep in contact. We started a countdown for them to respond to our demands, and it was only within a week or so that the CEO, Ian Oliver, got in touch with the union and said that they would be interested in meeting to discuss these issues. As a result of our campaign, E-Courier has offered a new pay package for their workers, which is a historic 28% pay rise, and that money comes from a few different places. Couriers are paid per job, not per hour, so the main focus is on the amount that the company pays them per job, per drop or delivery. So we got a 40p pay rise on top of each job, and with a starting point of £2.75, it's a significant percentage increase. But couriers also pay the company to work there. They're listed for the moment as independent contractors, which is an extremely exploitative relationship between the courier and the company, which means that the courier actually incurs all the expenses to keep pedaling every day. If you were an employee of a company, you wouldn't be renting your desk, but essentially that's what couriers are doing by paying to work at the company. They pay for their equipment, which is essential to the job, as well as fronting costs for their own bike, the maintenance of the bike, their own clothing, and uniforms, which up until the pay package, E-Courier actually made people pay to wear their uniforms. So part of the pay package was a reduction in those fees, saving the couriers money. So it was addressing these costs. They made a concession of 10p per mile cycled, and when you cycle 60 to 80 miles a day, it adds up over the years. They've also cut the fee to wear the uniform, so they provide free clothing, and those elements together adds up to an average of £78 gained extra a week. So everyone's quite happy about that. Our campaign was for the living wage plus costs. We got the living wage, and we got some of those costs addressed. As it stands, couriers are still sort of meeting the company halfway in terms of meeting the costs to work. But the important victory here is that companies are now acknowledging the real effect, the real implication of these costs, which have a real effect on people's earnings. E-Courier, at the beginning of negotiations, claimed that people were earning the living wage already. But of course, those figures they were putting forward were pre-deduction, pre-cost, pre-everything. And if you're spending £50 or £60 on a given week to work, your take-home pay is not the living wage. That's why our campaign was the living wage plus costs, so that at the end of the day people would be taking home the living wage. But we still see it as a great step forward that the companies are now acknowledging the fact that these costs need to be addressed for the couriers. As well, E-Courier have not voluntarily offered any sick pay, holiday pay, or pensions, or any of the sort of benefits that virtually any other employment arrangement allows people who are working at a company. And that's down to the independent contractor status, which is pretty much forced upon couriers to work at companies like E-Courier or any other company in the industry, to be honest. Those demands, which the IWGB is very much pursuing, will be addressed in the tribunal claims. I think what the union is doing is something very new in this industry. Couriers have never been properly unionized before, and because of that, companies are not used to treating their workers with respect or having to tiptoe around protections or rights that people deserve but haven't had for years in this industry. So none of these companies are giving anything out of the goodness of their hearts. They're only doing so because we're gaining bartering power, because our industry is unionizing. Therefore, because it's a new thing and because this process is still ongoing, companies don't quite know how to act yet. I think with our track record going strong and these two victories, major victories behind us, I think the next companies in line will be handling it different to avoid the same campaigns that E-Courier and City Sprint had to deal with.
Do you think that there is more that E-Courier can still do for their workers?
Yeah, they can voluntarily recognize the union because we represent a majority of their push bikers. This is something that we made a request to E-Courier to recognize the union, which they denied. We did make it clear to them that would mean we'd start a process in court to force recognition. It seems they're doing that out of pride, and I think they don't quite know how costly the legal fees will be for that sort of thing. It would be in everyone's interest for them to accept the unionization in their company and try and work with us rather than against us.
And now that you've had a successful result from E-Courier, what is next for the Couriers branch of the IWGB?
The members are very happy, and the members are also looking forward very much to the tribunal claims, which the first of which was processed and confirmed last week against Addison Lee. So Addison Lee is due to appear in court in June at the moment, and 3 other tribunal claims against other courier companies are still underway. We expect them to be confirmed any time now. Looking ahead at the challenges those pose, but also what we have to gain from them, that's very much our concentration at the moment. Although following our AGM and following another branch meeting, I suspect we'll be picking another company as a target soon to get on with it, to try and win pay rises for more people at different companies and just change the industry one company at a time.
Let's go.
The University of London has recently gone through 2P transfers and have changed contractors for many of their services. Despite attempts at negotiation, one of the new companies that have been brought in, Cordon, have refused to respect the regular pay dates. The IWGB have now submitted a tribunal claim in the hopes that this will change. I spoke to Henry Chango Lopez about how the company's lack of cooperation is having an effect on the University of London's contracted workers. What are the services that Cordon are now providing to the University of London?
There are 2 companies that have taken the contract, which are Cordon, but they are different in a way that it's different names. For instance, one is Cordon Cleaning Company, and the other one is Cordon Security Services.
Has there been any major changes in you or any of your other colleagues' responsibilities since changing contractors?
No, there hasn't been any changes at the moment. I mean, the company just has taken over the contract, so the things hasn't changed much.
Explain why you have submitted a claim to the Employment Tribunal about Cordon.
We submitted the Employment Tribunal claim because Cordon has decided to change the payment date for the workers unilaterally. As for instance, before we used to be paid every end of the month, and the Cordon has changed it to every 8th of the month. Most of the workers aren't happy with this. We have told this the company, and on top of that, they have violated 2P regulations, which go against this.
And why do you think Cordon haven't cooperated with the previous pay dates that were set out?
I think the problem with outsourcing is that not just Cordon, but many companies that take over the contracts, they just decide to change the payment of the workers as they wish, depending on the system that they have. And this is very bad for outsourced workers because, as for instance, when Balfour Beatty took over the contract in 2011, they changed the date of payment from 2 weeks to every month, and they messed up the wages completely for the workers. Workers weren't paid for 1 month, 2 months. So we have this problem all the time, and that's why we are not happy with this. And most of the workers are upset because they have to change, for instance, the direct debits and the rent that they have to pay. And there's a lot of things that they have to change. So they are not happy, and we are not happy about this. And that's why we have taken legal action against this.
So where are you now in the process of submitting the claim?
Well, we just have submitted the claim last week, and we're just waiting from the tribunal to decide when will be the first hearing, as it seems that Cordon is going to defend the claim.
And what are your hopes with the claim? And do you think this will affect your relationship with Cordon in the future?
Yeah, we hope that we win the claim and they don't change anything for the workers, because it wouldn't be fair that they just came and they decide to make these changes despite that the workers are very unhappy about this. And obviously we don't want to have a bad relationship with Courtauld. The idea is from the beginning was that we start having good relationships with the company. They are new employers, and we expect that we have a good relationship rather than a bad relationship for the benefit of all parties.
Since the interview, the IWGB have had another victory and Courtauld have now agreed to go back to the previous pay dates due to legal pressure. On the 22nd of March 2016, the IWGB officially submitted claims to employment tribunals for 4 of the UK's biggest courier companies to challenge the employment status of their workers. Jason Moyer-Lee, who is the president of the IWGB, discusses the status of the claims and the next steps the union will take.
The current status of the case is we've submitted the claim to the Employment Tribunal, and we've had to do it as 4 separate claims. We're hoping to join them up at a later stage. The case has received a lot of attention. From the press, there's been so far an article in the Huffington Post, the Evening Standard, and the Guardian. The Financial Times is probably going to do an article, and we've been speaking with someone at the BBC about potentially doing some broadcast coverage of it. There's a few ways the attention has helped. One is it's always good for people to know what's going on in the industry. The courier industry is relatively unknown, and one of the things the union has been doing is to shine a spotlight on that. And shining a spotlight on this nasty industry is good because then the employers often feel like they're under more supervision or being observed and might have an incentive to behave better. The other way that publicity has helped is we're doing crowdfunding to help cover the legal costs. And because of all the activity on social media and whatnot, we've already raised over £1,000 to help fund the case. And the third way it's helped is because in addition to the court case, we're doing campaigns in the courier and logistics branch. So we've just had a campaign against E-Courier, and we got a very good offer out of E-Courier, which we've accepted. And I think that all the publicity around the Courier Tribunal and the articles that mention E-Courier and whatnot definitely helped get an offer out of them. My guess is that whoever loses is likely to appeal, but like I said, we've had legal advice to say we're likely to win.
Sarah Fraser-Butlin is a barrister at Cloisters Chambers and also teaches trade union law at Cambridge University. She is one of the barristers representing the couriers in the case. I also spoke to her about the importance of the trial. What point are you at in the Courier Tribunal case?
Well, so far we have presented the cases to the tribunal, which means we've put the paperwork into the court, and we are waiting for the courier companies to write their formal response to our case. We'll wait to have the response from the companies telling us why they think couriers are self-employed, and we've got a court date in the diary for one of the cases, and we're working now to get them all consolidated together so we hear all the cases all at once. I'm not aware of a formal response from them yet, but we know through the media that they are saying that they will be challenging the cases and that our assertions, our cases, are completely unfounded. So it looks like we'll be going to court and fighting all the way through. Well, of course, we're really optimistic. We wouldn't be doing the case if we didn't think there was a good case for the couriers. What's really important here is that the court needs to look at the reality of the situation. Well, it's absolutely critical to understand what someone's employment status is. If somebody is a worker, then they suddenly have access to lots of rights. If they're an employee, then they get even more rights. It's really basic stuff like holiday pay and things like that, which are really basic to the employment relationship. It's also important because it challenges the companies about what they've put out in writing, what they've said in their contract isn't actually true.
The IWGB is currently in the process of setting up a charity which will allow us to provide our legal services to more of our members. I spoke to member of the University of London branch and trustee of the IWGB Charity, Joe Trapedo, about the process of creating a charity and the effect this will have on the IWGB. What does making the IWGB into a charity actually involve?
The main thing it involves is making an application to the Charity Commission to get a charity number, and part of our application involves us explaining to them why we think that this particular part of the legal section of the IWGB is a charity, and that mostly involves relating it to one of a series of what are called charitable purposes. These are kind of functions or purposes that are deemed socially beneficial. And the main one, the one that we've applied on the basis of, is for the relief of poverty, because it's pretty obvious that what we're doing helps to relieve poverty. We've achieved all sorts of things already in that way, and the work that we're going to do with charitable donations will allow us to continue that work. The charity will concern the work of the legal department, so it won't affect large sections of the union at all. But in general, the work of the legal department will be the same, but some of its functions will be undertaken by the charity. The main impact of the development will be in our capacity to raise money. One of the reasons why we're doing this is that the IWGB is a little bit different from a lot of unions in that the casework that we do with many of our members is labour intensive in a way that's very unusual for a trade union. So for a section of our members, we are required to raise funds from elsewhere. Some of the work we do is just a standard union work, and that will continue as normal. But in the very kind of labour-intensive work that the legal department does, we need to raise a little bit of extra money in order to be able possibly to hire more staff, but certainly to keep going. And being a charity allows us firstly to make more applications to several foundations, many of which simply won't accept applications from things that aren't charities. It allows us to raise money from the public, because being a charity is a kind of a sign that you're bona fide. And when we looked into it, we found that we in fact fulfilled all the criteria that are set out by the Charity Commission, so we thought that it would be a good idea in that sense as well. I think everybody will benefit, and it will benefit in the sense that there will be more resources available. I think that some of the members, particularly I think our non-English speaking members, will benefit because there will be more resources for the kind of very labour-intensive casework that they involve. But I think there will be also a wider benefit, because one of the things that the IWGB does, apart from relieving poverty, is that we've brought quite a lot of legal cases. And this is something that a lot of unions don't do. And so we have made cases which I think will have the capacity to set precedents in all sorts of areas of employment law in favour of working people. And I think there will be a much wider benefit than just our members, though of course I think the members of the charity, of the union, will probably benefit most of all. I think the major positive effect of the change will be to conduct more effective fundraising events in general, because I think people are more happy to give to a charity. Just as an example, in March we had our first fundraising event in Oxford where we raised, at present we raised just over £3,000, so it's going to enable all sorts of positive developments on the fundraising front to happen.
Recognition with contractors is vital for unions like the IWGB to be able to represent workers in a fair and transparent manner. The IWGB have been attempting to seek recognition from Ocean, however there have been some problems whilst doing this. I spoke to Julian Marine, who is the representative of the workers at the Royal College of Art, and Wilson Ayala Romero, who is the vice chairman of the University of London branch, and discussed the implications Ocean's actions will have on the union. So what are the main challenges that you face?
Pues generalmente todo porque
the whole thing is really complicated because every part is kind of pulling for themselves in a way.
It's important because all of the problems that we face in our work need to be resolved by dialogue, and this is the most adequate format by which to do that. There was an agreement between the workers and Royal College of Music, and since December we've been having a monthly meeting. Sadly, none of these meetings have resolved any of the problems that we've raised. We haven't come to any sort of agreement over any of the issues that we're concerned about.
What are the main challenges you are facing with Ocean?
The main problem, and the problem that the union is helping us with, is that they don't want to recognise our rights as workers. There's a lack of respect that Ocean has for its workers. We have problems relating to pay and relating to holiday and sick pay.
Why do you think it has been hard to get recognition with Ocean?
The process of recognition by Ocean has been problematic because every time we've had a meeting, when we've tried to resolve problems, more problems have arisen, and we've tried to reclaim our rights and resolve issues as they arise. But this is something that Ocean has found very difficult to deal with, and for that reason, they've put a brake on negotiations.
Is recognition from Ocean still something you would like to pursue?
It's very important, especially a union as small as ours. It's very important that we fight for recognition because we want to claim rights as workers.
The University of London have recently changed contractors for many of their services and are now working with Bouygues for maintenance. The IWGB are now attempting to seek union recognition from Bouygues. I spoke to John Barnett, who is a member of the University of London maintenance team and of the IWGB, about how this change affects him and the importance of seeking union recognition. So what is your role within the University of London?
I'm the painter and decorator. I've been here nearly 30 years.
Has there been a change in your responsibilities since the new company's come in?
No, the only change that we've gone electronic. We've gone from paperwork down to PDAs, and I'm finding that a bit confusing. I'm 61 now, and change is not good. I'd have preferred the old paperwork, but that's the way things go on. So.
Why is union recognition from Bouygues so important for the maintenance workers at the University of London?
We've got a few issues going on, and they haven't transferred from our last employer, NG. So hopefully they can be resolved with Bouygues, and I believe the only way they can resolve anything is through union recognition, for the unions to push us forward.
So why have many of the maintenance workers chosen to join the IWGB?
The IWGB, new union, most of the men were with Unison, got very disillusioned. This seems like a union that gets things done. They're for the cleaners, they're for the porters, and hopefully they're going to do for the maintenance staff. I think the IWGB as a new union, it's got new ideas. They seem not aggressive, very logical, and they're for the workers, which we haven't found in the past with other unions. They are actually on the ground and they're working for us. This is a way that we think that we're going to get things, any problems solved. And as I said before, this is what they've done in the past.
The IWGB held their second annual general meeting on the 23rd of April for the University of London branch and the Couriers and Logistics branch. This gave a chance for all of the members and volunteers of both branches to come together and learn more about the union as well as socialise with each other. Vice President of the IWGB, Henry Chango Lopez, talks about the purpose and the importance of this annual general meeting.
Yeah, the purpose of the annual general meeting is to elect officials, either from each branch or as a general union. Also to inform the members of what the union has been doing during the year, basically to gather all the members that we have in order to elect officials democratically. To also, at the end of the general meeting, we have a party normally, so it's also to enjoy as a union that we are on the day. We normally invite obviously all the members of the union, but we also invite other people that are connected with the members, either their friends or families, as it's a good way of demonstrating other people what the union can do, and also to raise awareness of how important it is to be part of the union, and to make them get involved in the union as well, people who don't know the union. We started from obviously holding the assembly and speaking to the members, as I said before, about what the union has been doing, what the union has been achieving, how our campaigns have been going during the year, what are things that the union needs from the members, as this is a very important occasion because we try to publicize as much as we can in order to get many members to come to the meeting. Then we elect the officials Normally, it would be by show of hands if there is no more than 2 officials. But if there is only 1 official, then we elect them by show of hands. Yeah, I think the annual general meeting is important. First, because the members can elect their officials democratically. Secondly, because they can find out about what the union has been doing, what the officials have been doing, and basically find out information that they haven't been able to find, whether because they haven't had a connection with the union during the year. So it's important in a way of us as officials passing the information on to them and showing how much the union has been doing. And obviously sometimes we also have some problems as well that we face as a union, and so that's the time to tell members, for instance, to support more the union, to support the colleagues, to support either financially, for example, when for instance we might have events where we try to raise funds for the union, and that's a good opportunity for members to help the union. So we try to promote this among the members, why it's so important that they get involved and they also help the union.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you want more information about the IWGB, please go to our website, which is www.iwgb.org.uk, or email us at office@iwgb.org.uk and we'll get back to you. Please leave a comment telling us what you'd like to hear in the next show, and we'll try to include as many topics as we can. We are currently in the process of making the first Spanish podcast, which will be available soon on SoundCloud. Thank you and bye.